Friday, this 15th of August evening, in commemoration of the birthday of Sri Aurobindo. At this time, it seemed a fitting moment, I was discussing with Purani, to remember an American who gave up all other interests to go to the ashram in Pondicherry and be near Sri Aurobindo and the mother. She followed the yoga and she wanted to be near to them. I refer to a dear friend of mine, Margaret Woodrow Wilson. She pursued the yoga until her death at the ashram, and it just occurred to me that it might be appropriate to share with you at this time a few words that Margaret has written to me before Sri Purani will give us a few words about Sri Aurobindo. Margaret has written from the ashram, and she's saying that there is pain and birth pangs there at the ashram as well as elsewhere in the world. She says there seems to be no escape. Here in this piece, where everything, I can't read her writing very well, for everything is made as easy as possible. We groan and travail just the same. But, O Lois, to be able to gaze upon two in whom the self has been born is the greatest reassurance I have ever known. And we thought you might like to hear from an American on this occasion who had gone to India and been close to Sri Aurobindo and the mother. We feel we have a special blessing this evening having Sri Purani with us, one who's been with Sri Aurobindo for such a long time and come under the influence of his great spirit. Having him with us has brought us nearer to Sri Aurobindo, and we're eager now on this very special occasion to hear what Sri Purani may wish to say to us. It is with sweet joy that I ask Purani to speak.
I remember Dr. Walker. He was a High Master for St. Paul's School, London, when Sri Aurobindo was a student there. And he served St. Paul's for nearly 37 years, I believe. He was first in Manchester as a High Master and was brought to London in St. Paul's School. And I think he retired in 1910. And at the time of departure, the school, St. Paul's, gave him a very fine stand. So he said one sentence which I remember now. He said, the best of friends must part. And, then he said that I wish the St. Paul's School to flourish and to become a big tree. Probably something similar also I might have to say, because when you are on a point of three moving, events, birthday of Sri Aurobindo, and our all gathering now, and then our departure from here. So, on such an occasion, probably Dr. Walker's words are very appropriate. And yet, there is one fine saying which I remember. It says, we met as though we met not, and we parted as though we parted not. Well, probably that might be a greater truth than mere parting, because when one meets, well, one feels that, we never met before. And one parts, one feels that one has not to part, because we part as though we parted not, because we take some part of ourselves with each other, isn't it? So that there is no real departure in that sense. And about Sri Aurobindo, we have worked about 45 days here, and from April 24th to now, we have been working here all over. And our greatest joy is his presence and Mother's blessing, which really have been the constant inspiration And it is that which is the most central aim of humanity if humanity would undertake the task. It is the embodiment of a truth consciousness which they have labored for 40 years to bring down for mankind. And during 45 days of study, we have tried to see various aspects philosophy, psychology, yoga, collective life, art, poetry, all kinds of departments of cultural life of man, which he has enlightened with the consciousness which he has brought down. And it is that consciousness which mankind has to take advantage of if it wants to solve the problems. I must speak about America because that is important. It is because of America that I felt called upon to come here. Lois and Mr. D, well, have been occasions for that. And I don't feel personally that America is absolutely materialistic or that it is wedded to an atheism as an outlook of life. In fact, there is plenty of hope in the constitution of American temperament, which can certainly most easily take advantage of the vision of Sri Aurobindo, which promises fulfillment of man's spirit on earth. Why America is more fitted in a certain sense is that because she has an organization of life and she has tried to meet some problems of life with success, solve them in a way which other people have not been able to solve. But also she is in a puzzle, and that puzzle is the difficulty of putting into the center of activity of collective life a value which really is not the highest value of mankind, but which is indispensable: economy, technique, machinery, progress along the line of accumulation of wealth. And she feels, I think, as Mr. Crutch has pointed out in his book, like somebody who has been riding a tiger. And now the problem is, well, you must ride on. If if you don't ride the tiger is going to eat you. Well, that is what has happened. You see, the difficulty is of an economic way of life in which economy is this highest value of collective and individual life. Well, we have created a culture here which puts this in the center. And now the problem is you must, as he puts it very finely, he says that to be where you are, you must run at your highest speed. To maintain your position, you have to run at the highest speed. So what speed we have got now for making money, making things, producing, utilizing, consuming, you must go on increasing. If you don't increase, well, you go under. Now, this is a view of life which is really like riding the tiger. You see, that you created a machine, and he counts a very fine, funny story. In India, Panchatantra, there is a funny story which he puts at the back of the last page of his book. There are four clever people, three clever people, and a fourth simpleton. They were friends. The three people were great artists. So he said that, you see, we must try to utilize our knowledge of, the occult art. All right. So he said, let us go. They were walking and going on a pilgrimage, sort of a picnic. So on the road, they saw under a tree number of bones. So somebody said, I can put the number of bones together. So that's good. All right. He put the number of bones together. Said, I'll now make a skeleton. So it was a skeleton. The second artist came and said, oh, I can put flesh around this skeleton. All right, put it. So he said, this is the skeleton. The third said, now I can put life into him. The fourth simpleton who was there said, wait, please. You don't see that the skeleton is of a tiger. And now, if you are going to put life into it, Well, wait a minute. If you are going to put life, he climbed up a tree. He climbed up a tree and said, "Now you can put life if you like." Well, as he put life, the tiger swallowed all the three of them. Very clever artists. You see, they're very clever. This is what has happened to technique. That is what has happened to machine. That is what happened to this economy-centric outlook, which says you must consume whether you need or not. We will produce whether you require or not. And you have to consume not because you require, but because industry is to go on. Now that we have to live for industry, I never conceived human life, on that basis at all. That people have to live in order to maintain an industry. Industry is made for people, this I knew. But that you have to consume whether you like or not, because industry is to be kept going on. Humanity doesn't matter, industry matters. Now, this is an outlook which requires to be changed. It's not that economy is bad, neither machine is bad. But dealing with the machine has influenced the human mind in such a way as to make him feel that making everything more and more and more, acquiring more and more, is the purpose of existence. This is really something that requires to be re-examined, put in its proper place. The organization has to be made to fit in with the fulfillment of man as a human being, as a man, as a being with higher values of art, of religion, of aesthetics, of philosophy, of fulfillment of his deepest soul. If he has all the time to go on producing, and producing things people don't require, and you have to persuade people by advertisement and by all kinds of, please buy, even buy on credit, doesn't matter. You need not pay now, but buy. Now this is something which is like the tiger. If America can adjust this to the need of human values, it is a very grand promise, because fundamentally there is no atheism or no what you call anti, spiritual attitude in the American temperament, as far as I have known in these last nearly 4 to 5 months. There is no pronounced, anti-spiritual attitude or atheistical attitude or absolutely rank materialism, which may be in some people. I don't say everywhere, even in India there are such people. I don't say given an atmosphere of spirituality, there are many people who don't believe in it. But here, Tom, the difficulty is how to make this adjustment. And this adjustment, if it could be made, it would be something which would contribute to the remaking of values of life of other nations also, because other nations are tempted by the success of economic organization of America. It is being imitated everywhere, including Europe. I mean, not only Asia and other countries, that is apart because they are poor and they would take perhaps some time to come up to it. But even Europe is trying to imitate. And this is responsibility of America as far as I can see. What America has to do is to make them understand that America is not out for going on increasing only production and consumption and increased prosperity as if that was the be-all and end-all of human existence. This, if America can set the example, will be a very fine thing for other people and on the whole for the human culture. This is one point that I wanted to speak about when I was thinking about America all along, because America is part of the world and we are anxious and very sympathetic about taking a view that the values that are obtaining now in such a advanced country like America, if they were set right, that would be one of the great services which America could render to the world. And with that object only, to see if it was possible to persuade some people to see this problem as we see it, from the Eastern and Sri Aurobindo's point of view. Well, with that objective, I came here. And I think that there may be a chance of, some effort. This is a work not to be done by collectivities, by groups, or by governments, or by associations. This is a work in which only individual can take an initiative and start. Such things are never done first by the collectivity. Collectivity is always conservative by its temperament and its working. It always wants status quo, or at best to go on along the line which is like a groove that is made for it. A new departure or a new creation or a new effort or Creating a new value in life is the work of individuals. In no line of creativity you find collectivity taking the start, making the start. So this is the work of individuals, and I hope some individuals will come in time properly when it is there. And about Sri Aurobindo, well, we have studied properly and so on. And for me to speak about Sri Aurobindo is to speak about almost, somebody about whom I would not like to speak because he has been, well, it is as it were I was speaking about myself, more or less. You see, it would be almost because I can't distinguish between my meeting him and I mean our working together in a certain way, and we can only say that we are what we has made us. So it is very difficult to speak about Sri Aurobindo and his work as a person, because he has not been in that narrow sense a person, you see. Even when I first met him in 1918 and 1920, I never could look upon him as a person, an individual with whom I was meeting. I was always feeling that I met somebody with a cosmic consciousness or a divine consciousness, and somebody who lived somewhere else and had come to the earth in order to do some work. And that it was a power that he had brought, a capacity and a consciousness. It is the bringing down of a new consciousness which is potential to all mankind, and which he, for nearly 27 or 28 years, tried to canalize into his self and the mother. It is that great service, opening out of a new level of consciousness of man. Whenever any new step is taken, the beginning of it is always with the few, because everything new requires first a great effort. And when the great effort is successful, very few are convinced of the necessity of the effort or the desirability of what is attained. But it always takes time, and this is much more pregnant, fraught with immense consequences to the human race. Opening out of a new level of consciousness, beyond mind, beyond intellectual consciousness, and bringing it down into human consciousness, into mind, into emotion, into the vital being, into the physical being. Well, this is a work which only the divine could have deputed to him, as far as I could see, because he always had this idea in 1909 when he addressed that meeting of Uttarpara in the suburbs of Calcutta. He spoke about his experience of the presence of an omnipresent reality in objects, in persons, in the vegetable kingdom, and so on. I read that passage perhaps at Phoenix. I don't remember that I read it here. So that for him, 1909 was a commencement of the presence of the divine consciousness, the omnipresent reality of which he himself has spoken, and it's a 15 pages pamphlet which even Carol can understand. It's so simple in its English. Every child can understand who is 15 or 14. It's very simply written because he spoke to an audience which was not a learned audience. It was a small audience of politicians who wanted to hear something about politics. He forgot all about politics and spoke about his experience in 1909. So the presence was there. And it is that presence of the divine and omnipresent reality that has guided him all along afterwards, because he surrendered himself completely to that presence ever afterwards from 1909 to 1950. Now, this is something, a very great event for humanity, a very great promise for humanity in a certain way, that omnipresent divine consciousness can become a part of man's nature. Man can retain it. And if he can retain, his nature will undergo a transformation. He will not be able to retain it with his present constitution. That is true. It will undergo a radical change, a transformation. And if that transformation takes place, life will not suffer. Renunciation of life, abandonment of life or any field of life is not at all necessary for spiritual life. Life comes from the divine and must go back to the divine someday, some process. And if it goes back, then life will become a field for the manifestation of the divine. Life is for the expression of the divine. So, how to bring the divine in life is man's problem. And he has, by canalizing this energy, this truth consciousness from above, he has rendered this service to man that he has first given a rationale, a convincing philosophical thinking which convinces any seeker who wants to understand why one should have the higher consciousness, or what is the nature of the higher consciousness, what is its relation with man, how is it related to the creation, why the world is material and yet you say that there is an omnipresent reality, what is matter, what is energy, what is consciousness, what is mind, what is subconsciousness. Any question, I challenge the human consciousness and intelligence to come and get the answer. It is answered there rationally. It is not on ground of authority. It's a philosophy which is worked out rationally. It is an inevitable sequence of logic that man has one day, if not now, 10,000 years afterward, he will have to go beyond his mental formula because mind is not a perfect instrument of knowledge. Whatever knowledge mind acquires will be always with a proviso that something more remains to be known. The area of the known, when it is extended, it always touches at every point the unknown. This is bound to happen given the constitution of human mentality, human intelligence. If you take 5 centimeters of known and it becomes 500 centimeters of known, at every point unknown is touching your known. This is the law of the mind. There is no defect. Mind is meant only as a temporary instrument to allow man to see the inconscient and also to feel the superconscient, to be convinced that there is a superconscient and the inconscient, and he is the middle term standing between the inconscient and the superconscient. He has to go beyond. He is a transitory being. This logic, this convincing rationale, accompanied by a process. It's not merely a statement, a philosophical statement. He said, all right, if you want to make an effort, well, there is a path. There is a process which you can follow, by which you can open to this new consciousness and see for yourself the consequences. It is absolutely scientific in that sense. And I, who was an honors graduate of Bombay University and took my degree with science, I was convinced because it promised to be the most scientific approach to the problem of man in his fulfillment on earth. I was not a reader of literature and philosophy and religion. I took my degree with science. And it is the scientific nature of this approach that you have a conviction about the conclusion. Then you have a process given to you if you want to make the process. You test the result for yourself and find out whether it is true or not. This is the great service which he has rendered. More than that, that he has applied this to various fields of cultural activity and creative activity of man, poetry and arts and literature and collective life and so on. That is secondary from my point of view. To such a light, whether one accepts or not is not an important item in his life. I have been with him for more than nearly 40 years. And I can tell you this, that whether men accepted or not never counted with him. Whether he was bringing down the truth or not was most important. And if it was the truth consciousness that was being brought down, well, it mattered little whether man accepted it or man rejected it. His constant presence and this establishing firmly this omnipresent reality as an achievement of human consciousness possible on earth gives again the promise that what the religion said, what philosophies, idealistic philosophy posited, and what the mystics always claimed has really some experimental basis. That concrete experience is the nature of religious impulse. That religious impulse, if it is to be fulfilled, it must reach concrete experience. And here is somebody who promises a concrete experience to those who aspire, who feel called upon to make the trial. Well, I would have liked to speak about him, but then it is very difficult to speak about Sri Aurobindo and speak logically, you see, so that I would not want to make an effort. I would only try to read a prayer which the mother has given for everyone who wants to try to approach this light. I think I will read that and then we will. Yeah. Prayer for those who wish to serve the divine. Glory to thee, O Lord, who triumphest over every obstacle. Grant that nothing in us shall be an obstacle in thy work. Grant that nothing may retard thy manifestation. Grant that thy will may be done in all things and at every moment. We stand here before thee, that thy will may be fulfilled in us, in every element, in every activity of our being, from our supreme heights to the smallest cells of our body. Grant that we may be faithful to thee utterly and forever. We would be completely under thy influence to the exclusion of every other. Grant that we may never forget to own towards thee a deep and intense gratitude. Grant that we may never squander any of the marvelous things that are thy gifts to us at every instant. Grant that everything in us may collaborate in thy work and all be ready for thy realization. Glory to thee, O Lord, supreme master of all realization. Give us a faith active and ardent, absolute, unshakable in thy victory. At Phoenix, in the Church of Science of Religion, they asked for the blessing when I finished my address to this house. Well, I faintly remember, I don't exactly remember what I said, but I think that might be perhaps the fitting request we can make. Because Sri Aurobindo's presence has been here all along. Since we have been working here, it has been more intense and it is there present. So we can pray to the light that brought the truth consciousness for humanity, that the earth consciousness for which the truth consciousness has come, may the earth consciousness in us open to that truth consciousness which you as the living embodiment of life has brought for the world.
Thank you, Purani. We have a little parting gift for you. And so, from all your friends in Sedona, in appreciation of all you've brought to us. And those who haven't signed this card, I wish they would sign it. So I'll give it to you as it is, and we hope this will mean that you will think of us many hours during the day and maybe even in the night.